What a day it is for Indian chess fans today. Vidit Gujrathi beat the former world champion Vladimir Kramnik. I did some of my research and I think Vidit is only the second Indian after Anand to beat Kramnik in a classical encounter. Simply phenomenal. Also for Vidit, it's a big boost in his chess career. This is the first sort of super elite player that he's beating. Previously, he has had the better of Wojtaszek and Le Quang Liem, who were both rated around 27, 30 to 40 in that range. But Kramnik is 27, 2777. So right up there, and as we know, a class act, former world champion from 2000 to 2006. Uh, so I'm going to take you through this game. Vidit was white, but I also want you to play an active role in this. So there's going to be a test, and in all, there are going to be 7 points at stake because I think there were 7 critical moves that Vidit made in this entire game, which gave him the victory. So I'm going to ask you to think at all of these 7 positions, and well, you have to put yourself against the big Vlad, and if you can get all 7 out of 7, then you have done what Vidit could. So let's go through the game. Vidit opened with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, and f3. This is what I was very impressed when I saw Vidit playing this move. Usually he likes to play queen c2, and as we know, he loves milking the positions where he has the bishop pair. But today he had lost against Rapport yesterday, and sorry, against Nepomniachtchi yesterday, and so today he was in a mood to fight it out. And so the Zamish variation: d5, a3, bishop c3, bc3, c5, cd, ed, and here e3. And I would like to give you a small historical background of this variation, at least from my point of view. I studied the game Capablanca, Alekhine versus Capablanca from Avro 1938. I guess many of you must have done so. If you haven't, then please look at that game. And when I saw that game, I started to believe that this position was better for white, because the game went something like, maybe the move order is not correct, but bishop d3, b6, knight e2, bishop a6, and then he took, queen d3, knight went back, castles, and somehow white managed, after knight to g3, sometimes he gets his rook over like this, sometimes he puts his bishop on b2 and gets his rook to e1, and then finally engineers the e4 break, e5, f4. And this is very well known in chess theory. And since I saw that game, I fell in love with this position with the white pieces. I used to feel you can put your bishop here, then you can put your knight here, you can castle, you can get your knight here afterwards, look for e4 break. Sometimes this rook swing is so cool, and I've won many games with the white pieces. But soon I started to realize that black is not doing badly. If black can organize his pieces well, for example, he can castle, he can play his I guess b6, bishop a6, exchanging the bishop makes complete sense, but then he can reroute his knight back to c6, put the rook on e8, queen d7, rook d8. I see absolutely no reason why black should be worse. So this was how my development took place in this variation. But then one fine day in 2013 World Championship match, the move that Magnus Carlsen played against Vishy Anand, and this was the crucial encounter. I think the 9th game of the match, c4 was played, and that time I was surprised. C4, this looks just so dangerous. For one reason is that you're preventing the bishop from developing on d3, which is excellent. But on the other hand, you are removing the tension in the center. So that means that if white can get the e4 break, it's going to be amazing for white pieces. It will be just a better position. So it's a very uh, compromising move, you can say, but at the same time, Kramnik, it's just the move that Kramnik wants to make. It's something where he says, I'm going to fight for an advantage, and that's his spirit these days. So c4, knight e2, and knight went to c6. So here is my first question of the game. You are in Vidit's shoes now. Pause the video. This is the first point. What did Vidit play here? Okay, I hope that you realized that on the queen side you are a bit squashed. Look at this bishop here, not able to come out. This bishop is also sort of blocked in. This rook over here is good, so you could think of bringing it, but you need to do something about your development on the king side. From that point of view, a4 can be a possibility to put the bishop on a3, but let's just say something like castles, bishop a3, rook e8. Suddenly this pawn becomes a big weakness, so you don't really want to move your bishop out from there. And so I would be very happy if you found the move over here, g4. And this is what Vidit played. 1 point for this move. Suddenly white's position looks full of energy because the knight can jump here, the bishop can go to g2, and then you're thinking about playing e4. So in one move you're solving a lot of problems. Now when you see this move, you start to realize, why did black play knight c6? Could he not just go h5, stopping this pawn from coming to g4? Well, there was a game Volkov played against Alexeyev, and after g3, knight c6, bishop g2, and here black played h4. The point of playing h4 now is that if I go g4, you will get h3 with a tempo when the bishop is on g2. So after h3, white played castles, and after hg3, knight g3, bishop e6, e4, white had already got what he wanted. So this is exactly what white is looking for. In the game, Kramnik didn't play h5, he went knight c6, and then there was g4, and here the game that is the most popular in this line, Anand Carlsen, went short castle, bishop g2, knight a5. I'm just showing you this game to show you some of the themes. Castling, knight b3, rook a2, d5, knight g3. I'm not going to analyze this game, but I want to show you one key concept, which is the move rook a6. And this is, I think, what Carlsen had prepared. You can't say move by move, but in this position he knew that the rook can move to the third rank and then defend entirely, you can say his third rank, which is the sixth rank in the position. So let's go back to the game. Instead of castling, Kramnik played knight a5, which is sort of similar. With it developed his bishop to g2, knight to b3. And here's my second question to you: what should white play? Okay, now if you went for the move that Anand made, if you are attentive, which is rook to a2, I would still give you 1 point for this. But in the game, Vidit went rook b1, and I think that this move makes more sense because when black takes this bishop, the rook is already on an open file, as we will see in the game that bishop has to be taken by black. So rook b1 is 1 point, rook a2 also not a bad move at all. Short castle, short castles, b5, and now Kramnik is doing the same thing which Carlsen had done against Anand. He wants to play a5, rook a6, and play on the queen side, at the same time use his rook to defend the king side. So my third question to you now, it's white to play. What would you play here? This is a very important one, so take your time. Okay, now if you came up with the move g5, well, not the best move. It's possible, but let's say after knight h5, e4, I'm presuming you wanted to do this. Black plays the move f6, and he gets his play. Black is getting his counter play. It's not something that you want. With it, I have a feeling that he was very well prepared here, and he went for the move e4. Fantastic move. It's a pawn sacrifice, but at the same time, a very, very powerful one. D into e4. So if you found the move e4, that's your third point. D into e4, f into e4, and here knight into c1 was played. Now I started to wonder why to take that bishop, but if you look a bit closely, you will realize that if black wastes time, then white is just going to play bishop g5, and this bishop is going to be a monster. So there were other possibilities here. Bishop into g4, then you go bishop g5 with a very, very strong position. If you take knight into g4, I can play h3, and suddenly the knight is out of squares. Knight h6 I will take, and if you go knight f6, again the same problems with bishop to g5. There's one move which could be possible, is knight into c1, queen into c1, and then knight f6. But once again here the problem is that the b5 pawn is hanging. So even there you can see how rook b1 comes into use. So after fe4, Kramnik didn't want the bishop to come out, so he took on c1, queen c1, and I think Vidit would have been extremely happy with his position. The rook is active. He has this beautiful central pawns. The bishop is going to shoot down the diagonal. Everything is going his way. So bishop g4, that's a pawn sacrifice. Knight f4, rook b8, h3, just pushing the queen back, bishop back. By the way, this is the first new move in the game. This had been played before in a correspondence game between Napalko and Bauer in 2010. And that's the reason why correspondence games are extremely useful when you are preparing. I have seen many top players using it, and you can just go to ChessBase India website and check out the correspondence database if you want that edge in looking at these games which are not in the published on any website or mega database or chess games. So h3 was played by Vidit. I think by now he was on his own. bd7, e5, pushing the knight back. Knight went to e8. And now comes your fourth question for the fourth point. What do you do here as white? Well, I hope that you were not very, very greedy, and at the same time you wanted to get all your pieces working together. So d5 is definitely a very tempting move, but after queen b6, somehow black is activating himself. King h1, bishop f5. I'm not saying black is better or something, or white is doing badly. It's just that what Vidit did was just so nice. He played queen to e3, and this is a move which says to his opponent that yes, I'm a pawn down, but I believe in my position, I believe in the strength of my pieces, and I'm ready to build up my position. So here queen e3 was a nice little move, and suddenly black is not sure what he wants to do, because if you sort of bring your queen to g5, now I do d5 and you don't have queen b6 anymore, and if you go knight to c7 here, then I again have d5, and if you play your queen to b6, somehow it doesn't feel very right to put the queen over there. I mean, knight d5 could come, and there's so many things. So rook b6 was played by Kramnik, and now came d5. Now you're threatening d6, by the way, to block this knight forever. So he went knight to c7 and d6, knight e6, knight to d5, attacking the rook, rook a6, and this is my fifth question now. Be very careful. You have an advantage now. You can sense it. This is always what is very difficult in chess. When you start to realize you are better is when the major mistakes happen. So keep your calm. Put yourself in Vidit's shoes. Imagine that Kramnik is sitting against you. Take out that chessboard if you have. what should white play here? Okay, one of the nice things that I have learned in chess is that when you're unable to figure out what you want to do, just try this method. Give the move to your opponent. So in this position, it's white to play, but if I give the move to my opponent, which is which is black's move here, then I realize that his threat is queen to g5. You know, for prophylactic thinking, this is just so useful. So if I give black the move, he plays queen g5 here, and suddenly I don't know what my queen is doing. I don't want to exchange the queens, and if I go say queen to e2, then this queen is just so well placed. Rook into a3 might come in, and I just don't like white's position, and that's why Vidit made this move, rook to f5. 1 point if you found it, and really this one was a very important move in the game. Not at all easy to find, because you could be afraid that there are some discovered checks, discovered attacks coming in, but nothing of that sort, because even a move like knight d4 doesn't work, as I can take maybe with the pawn or the queen, and if you take here I have knight e7 winning back material. Okay, so queen h4 was played by Kramnik after rook f5, and I want to give you one easy point here. It's white to play, what will you do? Yes, sometimes it's not at all required to be flashy. Sometimes it just pays to build up your position. Rook bf1, bringing your last piece into the attack. Yeah, many times you forget, this guy, I'll leave him out there. I have these guys, and also bishop could join in. But, if you can bring your rook, nothing like it. It's the final piece joins in, and after rook into a3, knight e7, look at how quickly Kramnik's position disintegrates. Rook f7, rook f7, rook takes f7, and here came queen to h5. Maybe there was one better defense, but it's also losing after king h2, queen e1 if you want to fight on. But after I take and play knight d5 or f5, this bishop is hanging, and these pawns are going to go through. They are very strong. So in the game, Kramnik played the move queen h5, and the seventh and the last point for you over here. What will you do as white? It's your chance to make the move, beat Vladimir Kramnik in one move. Okay, I hope that all of you found this pretty queen sacrifice, which is queen to f4. Very nice and pretty move. Of course, the queen cannot be taken here because of rook to f8 mate. And in the game, Kramnik had nothing against rook f8 check and a mate coming up, so he resigned the game. So let me know how well you did, how many points out of 7 you scored. Write them down in the comment section below. Today is a wonderful day for Indian chess because one of our players has beaten a former world champion. I remember Vidit as a very young boy, 13-year-old, when I stayed with him in Kolkata in the same room. We both had roughly the same rating, around, maybe he was still higher rated at that point. He was young. It was in 2007, I think 2008 or 9. And I remember one incident which was like, I was trying to solve positions before the game, and we had this apartment where he was in one room with Vinod Bhagwat, one of his co-players from Nashik, and I was in my room with Sohan Phadke, and we had this table in between in the hall, and I would set up the board over there and try to think and solve some tactics. And I would be setting up a position, thinking like this for a long time, and suddenly Vidit would come out from his room and look at the position and say, I got it, like in 30 seconds or something like that. And I would be thinking for 10 minutes. That's when I realized that he was a phenomenal talent, and he has proved it. Today is a big day for him. He's beaten a former world champion. Vidit, congratulations. We are all very, very proud of your achievement.